Okay, and we are live, and Dr. Alzona is just coming in right now, so I just admitted him in. But we are live with your favorite Friday afternoon habit of Dr. Politics and the Political Architects. Welcome, Dr. Alzona. I guess you were not talking about Baltimore Light Rail and Transit, huh? You also need to unmute yourself. But anyways, we're back, and we're joined again by Jason Trott, the Vice Chair of the Anne Arundel County Republican Party. They're putting on a great debate watch party on the 29th. Everybody should go. And then we're joined by Mark Unkefer, Esquire, in the great state of New York, and I think Virginia, you're Bard?
Virginia? No. D.C. and New York.
Oh, D.C. and New York, okay. So two bastions of liberal dominance. And then we have the Dean of Political Biases and...
I have to respond to that. It's just
yes.
more remunerative bars to be a member of than certain other states.
Yeah. You are not. You have never been a Maryland attorney or desired to be a Maryland attorney, correct?
I have never done a personal injury case. I have.
You never chased an ambulance?
Never chased an ambulance.
You don't like feel the need to rush out the door and jump into your.
No, I don't. I don't feel the need to hand out my business cards to people who are in the emergency room.
Yeah. And we're joined also by the Dean of Media Watchdogs, Don Irvine of Actress in Academia. Don, how are you doing this evening?
Doing great.
And then we have my old friend Marcus Alzona. Anything tech, anything AI, anything complicated, any simple things you want to make complicated, Marcus is your man.
Not only that, he can tell the precise location where your problem is occurring at this very moment.
There you go.
Yes.
So you have no privacy around Marcus. He's right now looking at a virtual map that is telling you where all of our listeners were today. Right, Marcus? No privacy.
So
don't give the secret out.
So this has been a busy week. We're about we're about 7 weeks away from election, which is about 35, 40 days till election day. I think the county
46 days.
46 days, yeah.
46 days.
Okay, so we're a little more than 7 weeks out. And we've got an election coming. If anybody has been living under a rock or living in the forest, there's an election this year. And the president's up for re-election. And Don, why don't I let you lead off?
Okay, so let's just we'll be somewhat non-political at the beginning here. Well, first of all, is that want to wish to our Jewish friends happy Rosh Hashanah. They will probably not be watching at this hour since it started at sundown, and they will be, but they can watch it on the replay, right, Dwight?
Yes, they can on YouTube Live.
I was going to say, and this is a great opportunity for a shameless plug of pounding that Facebook like and signing
smashing
up.
The like button, yeah.
That's true. That's great. That's right. But so today, though, I put this in here because I was actually kind of surprised. I have to admit that my military history was severely lacking when I found out that today was the Air Force's 73rd birthday, and I don't know. I think my own feelings was that I just figured that they were, maybe not necessarily as old as some of the other branches of the military, but 73 is awfully young in that term. But I went back, and so they used to be the U.S. Army Air Corps, and they had several other iterations before that. But it's only really been the U.S. Air Force since September 18th, 1947.
And then they'll morph into the Space Force at some point.
It could be. So I guess it would probably make it the youngest branch of the military, probably.
Well, the Space Force.
Well, Space Force, that's true. That's right. Space Force and then the Air Force. But like Dwight said, who knows? They could wind up being one in some time at the other. Anyway, so let's go on. We'll get into the meat of the order here. One of the things I want to start off with is this kind of little dispute between the CDC director, Robert Redfield, and the president about masks and vaccines. So Redfield was testifying before Congress, and he made what I thought was a remarkably startling statement when he said that masks were going to be more effective than the vaccines. President Trump fired back, and as he normally will do, and said he was confused and things like that. But I don't recall a health official ever putting something like masks ahead of vaccines and things like that. I mean, what's going on here? What's the feeling here?
Well,
I'll let you go. I'll let you go, Mark. I'm starting our watch.
I was going to say, we've talked about this on past shows, which is that while there is this narrative that somehow when there's a vaccine, once everybody gets it, that's going to be the whole deal. When the standard for vaccines, that is the FDA requirements, is that they be similar or as effective as flu vaccines, which is a standard of being 50% effective. And what that 50% means is that of, the X number of people who would have gotten the disease, at least half don't get it. So that means if 10 million people would have gotten the COVID, but for, but in fact get the vaccine, up as many as 5 million could still get the disease. So it is not a kind of gold standard that eliminates the prospect of getting the disease.
Go ahead, Dwight.
Yeah, as I was saying, but I'm kind of funny, it's like, listen to these Democrats and these bureaucrats, they sound like a bunch of anti-vaxxers, frankly. Who would have thunk the Democrat Party is the party of the anti-vaxxers? What's next? Is Joe Biden going to be against chickenpox and polio vaccines as well? I mean, he didn't.
Well, but in fair, listen, I far be it for me to have to take the Democratic side here. But I understand we're rushing out a vaccine. We really won't have, the opportunity to do the kind of large-scale testing and review that goes into many of the other vaccines that are out there.
Well, let's go.
And that's understandable. That's not a cop-out. Let's face it, this disease only surfaced less than 12 months ago, and we're moving very quickly, and we're trying to get this in place. But let's be realistic about what kind of, promises can be made for what a vaccine can do.
Yeah, I would say some of this is probably also what usually happens with a lot of the media, trying to find differences from what the president says and what anyone else in the administration says. So trying to jump on the differences because the president tends to talk at a higher level, or like sort of the higher level concepts, and because he's communicating to everyone, like to the people about and balancing a lot of different things. So saying that, like with the flu, going to your point, yeah, exactly. Like the normal flu vaccine, when they're saying, oh, it's successful, it's at some rate that if you were to say that, oh, would you be comfortable with a vaccine that's only X amount successful for COVID? People would be like, oh no. It's like, well, that's what we usually do for the flu. So then what's the next step on that? And it goes back to that you need to make sure you protect the vulnerable populations. And that's I think I mentioned a couple weeks ago, but a friend of mine was I was having a discussion with him, and he's saying, yes, for certain generations, for certain age groups, it might be that for the next few years, they will just need to wear a mask wherever they go. It's going to be sort of how Asia has adapted. So it's there are different details here that I think they're trying to emphasize to put distance between the CDC and the president, and I'm not really sure it's really that distant. It's more the framing by them. Although I did the issue that Dwight mentioned, I thought was interesting, not for this specific issue, but
which one?
For I guess the exchange that and I'm not sure if we're supposed to talk about this later or not, but the exchange between Kamala Harris and Ivanka Trump. concerning vaccines. And when Harris was asked, well, if the vaccine comes out, would you take it? And she's like, oh, well, I don't really know. I don't really trust Trump and blah, 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 blah. It's like, and then when pressed a few more times, I believe this was the case, Harris said, well, I'll take it after Ivanka takes it. Or no, I'm sorry. I'm getting different things, people confused, but there, it might not have been Harris. I'm sorry. It was Joy Barrett. It's a separate thing. My apologies.
Actually, not to be that guy, but I must say, if it's Joy Behar.
Oh no! Oh God! No! Oh no!
But if Joy Behar is the one saying, she's not going to take it,
And so, well, it was that she was saying until Ivanka takes it, and Ivanka replied on Twitter, "Oh, okay. When it comes out, I'll come on The View and take it right there."
Very good.
And then, so there. So I mean, it's. But just going to Dwight's point about, because Trump is saying it,
yep.
Then all of a sudden the Democrats have turned into anti-vaxxers.
Well, we've gone through this. We've gone through this with some of the treatments.
Remember hydrochloroquine?
Right. That became this. Now it turns out that has side effects, but there are other treatments that are effective, and thank goodness, some steroid-based treatments.
But everything's got side effects. I mean, I took, remember a couple years ago, I got the flu. They gave me Tamiflu. Tamiflu made me feel like I was seasick all the time. I think that prolonged my flu faster if I didn't do anything.
And you took the flu shot that year, right?
Yes, I did. And
people. Yeah. Now he never gets it again, right?
No, basically that was the first time I got it in a long time because I was badgered into doing it. And I mean, I think if I did not do the Tamiflu, I probably would have been able to attend our county party convention. We had Governor Ehrlich be our speaker.
So let me ask this, or kind of throw this out here. It's like masks and vaccines. Do any of us know how effective? Is there a study out there? I didn't look for it. I should have. As to how effective masks are, because one of the things about the masks is that there are different kinds of masks that people are wearing. Most of the masks that I wear have been sewn by my wife, and she's done 2-layer and she's done single layer. The single layer is just so that I can have a little bit easier time when I'm at the gym, and things like that. But I they're so thin. I kind of wonder how effective is that? The paper masks. We have people wearing N95 masks. They're also, there's all kinds of things out there, with that. So I'm not really sure how effective plastic shields, how effective all of that is anyway. I mean, is that if the vaccines are maybe at 50%, are the masks are they higher? Are they 60 or 70%? Does anybody really know?
Here's the thing. Okay, the mask is not going to protect you from getting COVID, frankly. It just it slows the spread. Unlike unless you the N51 or N95 masks. Those are actually more effective. But I mean the masks that most of you see people wearing at the supermarket is not going to protect you from the flu, for crying out loud. It's just it's basically a placebo effect.
Well, let me push back. I mean, the public policy of public health involves not necessarily trying to make everybody safe. It is more about making a broader part of the population safer. There's no expectation that we're going to be able to, eliminate deaths in the next 12 months. That part of the, to and fro that takes place in the cycle of life, right? But sorry, Kumatabe, right? Thanks. I knew you get the cultural reference there. But what's interesting is this then much of the discussion and dialogue about COVID becomes this absolutist of nobody can get sick, or, oh my God, one person got sick. I thought Ryan, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, was really right on point when he was describing the situation at Virginia Tech, where there was no expectation that everybody was going to be, COVID free. There was a recognition that a percentage of the student population from time to time would get it, but that then you needed to have a process to quarantine them and to, help them get better and to slow the spread. it seems to me that that's much more realistic than this kind of panic that sometimes people go in at the prospect
this
of
is like
getting it.
Facts. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the swine flu and the bird flu and Ebola, and those were all kind of built up by the media as the pandemic, but never, came into fruition, But I mean, you saw the media; they were talking about the swine flu, and I've known, and it's going to kill so many people and so on, and I know probably more survivors of the swine flu than I know people that have died of the swine flu. I mean,
that's probably true.
And just like
I feel like
go ahead, Jason.
Good. I feel like Mark did hit it right on the head, because the other night didn't Joe Biden say in his CNN town hall that if Trump had just done his job, then there would be 0 COVID deaths, and there is too much of that. I think too many people think it's either all or nothing. It's ridiculous to say that if you did something differently, then it's like it would have never happened, and nobody would have gotten sick, nobody would have died.
Well, who's responsible for all the deaths that we have every year from the flu? I mean, this
exactly.
This happens under every administration. I mean, this is the fact of life.
And it's like I hate to not to be morbid or anything like that, but look, people die every day.
I'm Dwight.
Car accidents, DUI. I mean, are we going to start banning cars? Hey, nobody get into a car because you might die if you crash.
Yeah.
It's the same mentality they have with this. We did not go down on lockdown after World War II, after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. My point is, we have to be cautious. We can't have this bunker mentality. We cannot afford to see businesses go under. I believe in D.C., the Hilton brothers, who own a number of establishments, clubs and restaurants in D.C., they are shutting their doors. And they were fairly well set. And I mean, if they're having to shut, just think how many other businesses that are going to be going away. I hope the Froggy Bottom Pub survives this. It's been around for years. I mean, it's been around since Mark was at GW also. Was it called Milo's then, or was it Froggy Bottom Pub, actually? But it's basically a fixture there in Froggy Bottom, and now it's on K Street. But, I mean, it's really sad to see these restaurants. I mean, Don, I think one of the topics you have is how there's a Yelp story about all the restaurants that are going under as a result of all this. We're not going to see a lot of them come back.
Yeah, we can get to that in a second. I just want to say one more thing, and we'll move on here. Just, with regard to all this COVID stuff, too, and how different things are. I was talking to somebody today, and he said he didn't want to get conspiratorial on this, but he's a big football fan, and he's out west, so he's waiting for the Pac-12 to restart, which he hopes they will finally capitulate now that almost every Power 5 conference has gone in. But he said that with Ed Ogeron of LSU saying that all of their players pretty much had it, he began to wonder whether or not, he said, I wouldn't be surprised if there were some coaches that decided that we're gonna make sure that everybody kind of gets it, gets over it, and then we can kind of move on, because there is that fear mentality that has been put into the public eye of you get one case and then everything's got to close down. It's just absolutely insane, to think like that. So I don't know what LSU football coach's strategy was, but when he came out and he said it, I think some people probably gasped a little bit, and I thought, well, no big deal to me. They kind of, they knew what they're doing. They're testing their kids and they're watching them, and nobody's on a ventilator or, in a hospital. So they're they're ready to play ball. So I think they're showing that you can live with this. You can get through it. Getting it is not the death sentence that the Democrats or the liberal media want you to believe it is. Life can go on, and it's going to be part of our life.
And on that same note, Don, our mighty Terps have never looked this good. We have yet to lose a game this football season.
This is your whole Orioles thing too.
Yeah.
It's the beginning of the season. I know that. All right. Quickly, next thing I do want to, Chris Rock, comedian. I just want to ask your opinion about this. So he had this interview with the New York Times, and one of the things he said in there is that he slammed Nancy Pelosi for the focus that she had in Congress on the impeachment. She said, you're by concentrating on that, something that you were not going to achieve anyway, the final verdict, that they were you basically let COVID, let the coronavirus in. Now, he had some disparaging remarks for President Trump, which was exactly what I would expect of him. But I wasn't expecting a guy like that, to go out there and criticize Nancy Pelosi and say, there's some truth to that, right? I mean, the Democrats were so, singular focused on going after Trump. They didn't want to listen to the other stuff. They criticized a lot of stuff that Trump did, only to backtrack a little bit later. It's like, oh, well, yeah, he did need to shut down the travel from China, et cetera, et cetera.
And this is what our friend Casey has been saying for months, the host of 21 this week, that, all the Democrats are like, oh, he didn't, he was distracted by this little witch hunt they called impeachment, which they knew it was going to die in the Senate. They weren't going to flip enough for the Republicans to get the impeachment done, so I don't, so they were just, chasing this as like, they were just trying to slow down the president's agenda, and they are actually largely to blame for distracting the president from.
I wouldn't take it that far, but I would say that one of the things that it did was poison the atmosphere in Washington to such a degree that Nancy and her Democrats really can't look back on anything that they've accomplished. And clearly, we've had lots of times in Washington where we've had divided government, party split Congress or split with the White House and Congress. But because Pelosi, I think it's been a year since she's actually met with the president because of the, intense animosity she feels towards him. As a result, the House Democrats, they came to Washington with essentially one agenda item, which was to send the bill of impeachment over to the Senate, which, as everybody has already said, wasn't going to go anywhere.
And, this is just standard operating procedure for the Democrats. Nancy Pelosi, when she took over the House in 2006, when President Bush was president, she did the exact same damn stuff she's doing right now. Bush is a war criminal, Bush is this, Bush is that. She's just took those speeches out and scratched out Bush and wrote Trump in. And that, with her little crayon, she put in Trump. So basically it's like, Trump's now the new devil. And, I hate to say this. Goes out to a lot of those people that are with the John Wilkes Booth Project. Do you really think John Kasich, if he got elected president, they would be saying the exact same thing about John Kasich or the exact same thing about Ted Cruz or Mitt Romney? Mitt, have you forgotten what they said about you? You gave a woman cancer. Remember that? These are your new pals, honest to God, these people, the John Wilkes Booth Project folks are a bunch of idiots. Connie Morella, our own congresswoman, she was, I hesitated on, I didn't vote for impeachment of Bill Clinton, because, I did what my constituents wanted me to do. Oh, President Bush, I can't support your tax cut, and she had to have a one-on-one with the president in the White House, an insignificant congresswoman from, suburban D.C., and then she begs for an appointment she gets that cushy little UN ambassador. What was she, UN, or was she an ambassador to
OECD?
Yeah,
OECD.
Exactly. And now Connie is against
you're not to do revisionist, but keep going. That's not quite right.
Now Connie Morella now.
That's your story, and you're sticking to it. It's okay.
Mark's going to fact check you.
What major piece of legislation did Connie Morella push through in her so many years? She was basically a mediocre congresswoman. She basically palled around with the Democrats. I hear she's writing a book called, I Was Nice to the Democrats, They Still Shafted Me. Because they're the ones that drew those borders that made
Here's
sure
the thing,
lost.
Dwight. You say that, right? And I understand, the frustration. However, if you want to be in the majority in the House of Representatives, Connie's seats, or the equivalent of the seats down in Houston, Texas, that say Lizzie Fletcher has, which is what had been a Republican seat for 30, 40 years since the 60s, that flipped in 2018. Those are the seats that you've got to be able to take if you're going to have a majority, A, and B, those are the seats that you got to have you got to have something to show for. And many of those Democrats in those Connie Morella Democratic seats were put at risk because impeachment, because precisely they have little to show for the last 2 years in power.
And I mean, here's the thing. I know a lot of other congressmen that are in marginal districts, but they were not in your face like Connie. Congressman King, we'd say his district is very comparable to Connie Morales' 8th district that she had. He was suburban New York. She's suburban D.C. And Peter still, voted with the president on the tax cuts. Just saying.
Well, didn't he vote against the Trump tax cut, Dwight?
No, I'm talking about the Bush tax cut.
Yeah, I know. We're talking about the Trump tax cuts. How did Peter King vote on those?
He voted the wrong way.
Okay, just wanted to get that in there. Just a little fact checking there.
He voted the wrong way, and something. And I sent him a little email saying, "How could you, Congressman?"
I understand. Just try to make your point for you, and he has a much more marginal seat than he did.
Well, he's not running.
I know, but his seat is much more of a competitive district than it was 16 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. Since we got into this Congress thing, I mean, what's the feeling here with the group on terms of the House and the situation for the election? Do the Republicans have a chance of retaking control, or are they going to get some of the seats back? Are they going to lose seats? I mean, what's the prediction at this point?
Go to Jason on that.
Yeah, Jason.
Yeah,
Jason's going to tell us.
Jason,
we're going to put Jason on the spot and ask him, how many seats are we going to pick up in the state of Maryland?
Pick up in the state of Maryland all 8, Mark.
There you go.
All 8 congressional
There
seats.
you go. That is the correct answer. Sorry.
I think looking at Congress across the country, I think what's more of the thing to watch are the Senate seats, and if we can hold on to the Senate, I think that's going to be razor tight. So I guess looking at the polls that have come out this past week, Joni Ernst in Iowa looks a little more safer than she did a few weeks ago, and I'm thinking that we're going to be able to hold on to Iowa. But then looking at Arizona with Martha McSally and Colorado with the guy's name,
Cory Gardner.
Cory Gardner.
I
think both of them are toast. I don't see us pulling those Senate seats out.
What are your thoughts on my old friend Susan Collins? Another marginal.
I saw a poll that she dipped below 50%.
Yeah, she was trending upwards, but I don't know what happened. I don't know if Biden spent a lot of money and did a ad buy in Maine, but she was, she was within the margin, but now it looks like,
I'm hopeful Susan Collins can squeak it out and stay in the Senate. I think that's important. I think we need that.
Yeah.
I think her and down in North Carolina with Tom Tillis, I think those are the two biggest Senate seats to watch for sure.
I think Tom Tillis holds on.
We'll get Doug Jones's seat. We'll probably should take that. But
Doug Jones will be no problem. I'm sure we'll get that.
But the others are going to be tough. We need to hold that because just the thought of Congress, the Senate, and the presidency being in Democrat hands.
Yeah, we saw what happened last time. We saw this movie before. They rammed Obamacare down our throats last time. They controlled all the levers of power.
And things have gone far more left with them since then, and that's
correct.
My biggest fear. I mean, we had AOC saying the other day in an interview, it's like, we believe that we can push Biden, basically saying we can push Biden further left. It's like, well, that's just exactly what I want to hear.
Mm-hmm. These guys are. I mean, here's the thing. Not to be that guy. But heaven forbid.
You said that twice now today.
If Joe Biden is elected president and the Democrats take the Senate and they take the House, I'm sorry, you big city fat cat Democrats, you deserve everything that's going to happen to you. Everything that happens to you deserve it, frankly. Elections have consequences, and then don't come crying to me when your taxes are up and AOC comes to move into your house because, you've got a 5-bedroom house and there's only 2 people living in it. You don't need all those rooms. So that's,
Dwight is picturing the commissars on the march.
I know people, this is what people
You know what would really get Marcus upset is if they came and said that he couldn't have his Tesla.
They may say, why do you need such a big car?
Well, they would like that Marcus had a rechargeable car.
Right.
Yeah,
that's true. But the power comes from a coal plant.
I'm in their
Jason.
club. At first glance, I look like I'm in their club.
There might be somebody a lot more deserving than you for that Tesla, though.
Yeah.
Never know.
So come
redistribute
it. Yeah.
So on Congress too. So we have with Nancy Pelosi, which we've been talking about here a little bit. She seems to be pretty much has dug in her heels on the stimulus, this relief bill, COVID relief bill, at $2.2 trillion. Basically, doesn't want to budge from that. Republicans have tried a couple of different things, have gone really nowhere. With the Democrats. Though, I think we've talked about this a little bit before, but as the days and the weeks go by, how important is it? I mean, the Democrats still think that we need to do this. The economy is bumping along. It's not doing super fantastic or anything like that, but we haven't seen the floor drop, just like that happened with it. So do we really need much more spending, by the government for this?
I don't think we do, frankly. And, I think Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats are overplaying their hand. She thinks this is going to lead them, to propel them into victory in November. But something? It's not, because people will see right through it. It'll be a Pelosi shutdown if she shuts the government down. The president already said, hey, I will give $300 more in unemployment to everyone. He'll give, another $1,200 check to everyone. I think this time it was actually going to be for everyone, not just for people making $75,000 or less. And then he said he was also going to suspend payroll taxes, and he was not going to ask for that money back, which Joe Biden has already said, I'm going to ask for that money back if there's a payroll tax.
Well, the payroll tax thing, and we've talked about this before, I think, Mark, too, is just that, the way it's set up, the payroll, that has gone into effect for those employers that wanted to, were willing to do so. But all it is a deferral, What is not taken out of your check now, if your employer decide to do that, will come out of your check next year. They're going to catch up because the government's given them until April or May or whatever it is, or maybe the summer, to go make those payments back and things like that. But a majority of employers, based on what I've read, have decided they weren't going to go there.
I honestly, not to be that guy again, but I must say, business taxes should be voluntary for businesses to pay. I'll tell you why. We create jobs. Employers create jobs, and those people pay taxes. Why should we be penalized for being job creators, but with regulations, over taxation, bureaucrats telling us how to run our business?
Is their version of double taxation without representation?
Yes, absolutely. And also, I'll even go further. I think if you have a home in 25 different congressional districts, you should be allowed to vote for Congress and the local municipalities in those districts. You know why? Because it's at the local levels where they steal your freedoms.
Okay, so returning to Nancy Pelosi's negotiating position, we talked about the districts that are up in play, and there are the democratically held districts that are pretty marginal. And a number of those members have been pushing back, and there's been some discussion about this, that they're not quite so comfortable with the Nancy Pelosi position. When they ran in 2018, it was not that impeachment was the only thing they needed to do or to resist. They generally made commitments that they were going to be more Washington work. And it could put some of those members, those marginal seats that Nancy is counting on, in jeopardy because of her intransigence.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine the backlash would be that when Kim Klacik wins Maryland 7? I mean, that would be phenomenal.
I understand that Jason has already been offered a job in her office in Washington. Oh, I wasn't supposed to mention that.
The chief of staff.
Chief of staff or whatever. Whatever.
Yeah, sure.
I want to ask Mark this though, because when we're talking about all this money, because of your experience with the airline industry, I mean, they're back. They're talking to the government. They're looking for at least another $25 billion or something like that. I mean, do you think that's something we need to keep doing at this point? I mean, they have already notified tens of thousands of people that they're going to be laying them off, right? furlough. Is this a necessity in your opinion, or do they need part of that, or what's your assessment about the situation?
Well, I as you mentioned, they have already given the warn notices to their employees, which is the 60-day notice that they're going to be laid off. And I will say too, most of them, not all of the airlines, I think perhaps Southwest, but all the airlines generally do not have that much of a cash cushion. So, and they have high, because of the planes, they've got high capital market commitments. So I would expect that we're going to see, if this continues, in the absence of kind of any response, some kind of bankruptcy. Now, how that works out, I mean, that's not necessarily bankruptcy in the sense of, okay, we're going to liquidate and close down and whatever. But it may be bankruptcy in the sense of some kind of reorganization that needs to take place.
Wipe some debt
but
off.
that's the airlines are in that position. But let's face it, so are lots and lots of other businesses that are just don't, except for the CARES Act, really do not have the cash to sustain themselves on an indefinite basis.
Well, I even wonder about the airports. I mean, I went to Reagan the other day to go pick someone up, and I walked in there and walked down to the Delta terminal, and I'm walking by, closed stores, in the concourse area and stuff like that. And I don't know whether or not that's a direct result of that. They figure that there's just not enough business for them to reopen to.
Yes, I mean, that is, yes, long short, yes. And we, the airport, are not necessarily encouraging. We want to have enough businesses relative to the amount of traffic, but we also recognize if we're at 20% of traffic, there's just no way our concessionaires can possibly make money in that kind of environment. So
does the airport give them relief then? They're not, in terms of rent and everything like that as a result?
In some respects, I mean, there are a variety of ways they can respond to it in lengthening contracts, and many of them did get CARES Act relief, which could possibly expire. And that will expire, but has expired, but won't, could continue if a deal has been reached.
Nancy Pelosi would play ball, frankly. If Nancy
Well,
Pelosi
remember
would play
the issue.
Ball.
The thing that's separating them are not these specific provisions.
Oh, they would bail out the poorly run Democrat cities and states, frankly.
It is state and local government, and I think that there's a real contrast to be drawn between the way states, our governor, got together and made, identified the shortfalls that were taking place and made cuts beginning in July. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jason. I'm trying to remember precisely when that happened, but I think that was in July. I assume that additional ones will need to be made, but acted responsibly. Contrast that with our own county executive here in Montgomery County. I don't know what the hell Anne Arundel's county executive is doing, but probably no good. They're not.
No.
They're not
Short
cutting.
answer, no.
Yeah, that was a softball question over to you. Yeah, so here in Montgomery County, they're just dreaming up new ways to spend money without recognizing the fact that they've got to cut back. And can I tell you an example where they could cut back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I got asked this question by our buddy Sam Statland yesterday. So here's one of the things that's going on. You've got all these students who basically have the same curriculum, right? They are in 8th grade. It is day 100 or it's day whatever right now. It's like day 28. So it's a particular step in the curriculum. That's being delivered virtually and being taped by lots and lots of teachers. There's a model that says we don't need as many teachers if we're not teaching in person, right? We certainly need students that are going to supplement, especially we're going to need to have Marcus's wife as one of those teachers who continues to work and provide counseling, right, Marcus? And but we may not need to have quite as many students, rather teachers, if what's all being done is you're watching a taped presentation of a particular module of education. I think we should let Marcus respond to that.
I think
Sorry.
the fall for distance learning, at least my impression, is in Montgomery County. So has been much more rigorous than it was in the spring, which is a very low bar to get over. So they are it is a lot more rigorous, but so it's not exactly, hey, they're just watching videos. I mean that isn't the case for the fall. For last spring, that entirely different thing. That was a disaster in my opinion, as a parent. Yeah, I mean, but to the broader point that, okay, you've made adjustments based upon these premises, well, then you can make other adjustments too, including staffing, which might be a reallocation. Not, I'm going to say you don't need as many, but you could say you need different skill sets, or you need people focusing on different things. But I don't know. I mean, I sort of feel like I wonder if that discussion is going to be overtaken by events, because other counties in the state, I believe, have opened up. At least I've gotten some messages from friends in other places, and their schools are open. So,
all right. Hey, look,
why
I don't want to interrupt us, but we just got breaking news. Justice Ginsburg has died.
Oh, so sorry to hear that.
That's sad.
It just popped up on my screen. So let's talk about that. Okay,
yeah.
This is unusual for us to actually deal with something like this, but this is a huge opportunity. But what's gonna happen here? I mean, we're this close to the election. We've already we went through that whole thing before, about Supreme Court nominations during the president. I mean, is there even a possibility that Trump is going to be able to exercise anything at this point in time?
Well, I think, we should just ram it through, quite frankly. The hell with the Democrats, hell with their stupid rules. We can deal with a simple majority vote. Let's let's get Ted Cruz or somebody into the U.S. Supreme Court fast as we can. We cannot risk Joe Biden appointing another Wokey McWokey to the U.S. Supreme Court, frankly.
But didn't Mitch McConnell said that he wouldn't bring up initially?
Mitch McConnell needs to get a backbone, quite frankly. He needs to freaking step up and play hardball. You think Chuck Schumer, if he had the majority, they would have buckled under? I mean, we had the majority.
I think what we're hearing from Dwight is that this has just elevated the stakes in a lot of people's minds for
holding
the election. Both the Senate side, both the Senate positions, and also the for president as well.
Because honest to God, if you are pro-life, you believe in traditional values, and you vote for Joe Biden, how dare you, quite frankly, to quote Greta Thunberg.
You get to vote for whoever you want, for better or for worse, Dwight.
Yeah, you think Joe Biden's
the way things work.
Is Joe Biden going to be supporting your values of
I understand that. I mean,
being right?
No, but look, if you look at elections as a kind of a hierarchy of concerns, and there's not everybody's got they've got check marks on both sides and what have you. We just took the Supreme Court check and moved it up to being one of the top issues.
Exactly.
And on
that
balance,
makes you think.
That helped us
Mark,
in 2016. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go, Jason.
That's what you'd think about. Is it better from our perspective if we took Dwight's method and we rammed it through and got us a new Supreme Court justice, or do we not do that and do we use it as an election issue like we did in 2016, like Mark said? So I think there's really two ways you can look at it, and it was a tough decision.
I don't know. I feel like it's both a current topic right now to talk about, obviously with breaking news, although it's sort of I'm reluctant to I think we should take a pause for it. Not necessarily in our discussion, but just as far as a party, so I don't think that this is an issue we should touch for the next until the election. I mean, there's too much others. Like, this is yet another thing. I don't think there's any reason to take any action until after the election. I mean, it would just confuse things too much, in my opinion.
But I do think that where Mark was going in terms of talking about as an election issue. So this is actually, to me, this has actually been one of the problems, with the campaign. We know as conservatives or Republicans that this is an issue, and Trump has got his lists. He's been putting out these lists. Biden's put out these lists. They knew that there was probably Ginsburg's health was not good. This was probably going to be a vacancy at some point. Didn't expect it to come quite so soon, but maybe for the Republicans this could be a big way to change some of the momentum in the discussion. Because as you said, we've got the Senate. It's really tricky where we are right now. We need the Senate. We need the Senate for many reasons, including this. But there may be some people who thought, the Supreme Court, I'm concerned, but it's something in the future. And I'm thinking about the next 2 months. This may elevate it to a lot of people's minds, and as you said, Mark, up the list in terms of election issue. This may be a huge opportunity for Trump and the Republicans to gain some much needed momentum here on this, and really start and make some separation between Biden and Trump on issues.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with the separation. I would caution to say, does this activate more Democrats who are sort of like frustrated at Biden and saying, okay, I'm just not going to vote for either, would now come in and vote for Biden? That would be, I would be politically, I would say I'd be concerned that this activates more Democrats than it does Republicans.
Yeah.
In 2016, this issue, the Supreme Court did a lot to bring Republicans home that maybe had doubts or concerns about Trump.
Here's the flip side.
That may not apply this time. I mean, I get what you're.
But Mark, here's the flip side. The Democrats, the Democrats are going to come out in droves to vote for Joe Biden to protect the Supreme Court. It's going to be in states like New York, Maryland, California, basically the big coastal blue states, Oregon, Washington, right? But I think in the South and in states like Arizona and even Colorado is still not as goofy as California is, frankly. And I think people in Colorado, this will bring people to vote for Cory Gardner over the Democrat challenger, saying, well, I would have voted for him, but it's too important of an issue for me, the Supreme Court. I think if we play this right, and it comes down to gambling, it's like, do you feel lucky and President Trump gets reelected and there's a Democrat Senate, we could theoretically, I don't know if you could do recess appointments on the Supreme Court. I don't know. Can you, Mark?
Can't do a recess appointment, but it is possible for there to be a confirmation in a lame duck session.
There we go.
That is possible. That would be interesting to watch for sure.
Interesting would be the understatement.
Yeah.
With that.
Here's something else I'm thinking about with regard to how this affects or could possibly affect the election. So Jason, you mentioning McSally and Gardner and people like this that are very vulnerable. But McSally has not been a great candidate to begin with. Gardner's in a tough situation because a lot of these guys, it's because of the anti-Trump, the personality of Trump that people are voting against. Supreme Court nomination is not personality driven in that sense, right? This now becomes those issues of abortion and those other issues. And if you're a liberal, you're not necessarily all that disappointed with the way the court has been ruling lately. I don't know that you see as much urgency in doing something, and coming out to vote on the Supreme Court because of the way the Roberts Court has ruled on several issues. But I think for a lot of conservatives that I know, they see it as a lot more urgent because the way Roberts has kind of ruled on, in recent decisions. And I think, people like McSally might get a bump. Gardner might get a bump.
Gardner particularly on Second Amendment issues, because Colorado is a good, strong Second Amendment state.
Yeah. Now that's a good transition, Mark.
Good.
What's the NRA been doing this cycle? I haven't really seen too much of the NRA around.
Okay, so this is what's interesting about the NRA. They also announced that they took in more money in the last month than they had. It's been the most money they took in since like early 2016 in 1 month.
Mm-hmm.
But I have not seen much in the way of the NRA and their political activism. I mean, they used to be, to me, front and center. There was always a lot of, they were pouring a lot of money into candidates and really trying to get things. If they're doing things, they're doing it a lot more on the slide, kind of silently doing this. They obviously, I think the whole thing with what there was going on in New York and and all these things and all the controversy around Wayne LaPierre and all, they've had some other issues going on, has probably distracted some things. But they may be quietly working on the behalf of Republicans, conservatives. I just don't really know. Does anybody really know? Are they putting money in anywhere? I mean, they raise money, but where is it going? I don't know.
I don't know. You'd think they would throw some money in Maryland 6, frankly, because that's, I mean, if they're awash with money, I'd throw some money at Neil Parrott to run against gun grabber David Trone, who, by the way, is MIA, doesn't want to debate. He's basically pulling a Rudy Boschwitz on us. But we've got, there's a lot of states like the Cory Gardner, they could throw money to Cory Gardner, that would help that. I think even the Will Hurd seat, they could, it's Texas, that's where, a little bit of a push could take our Republican over the finish line there. Otherwise, we're not really going to, I hate to say it, we're not going to hold Will Hurd's seat right now as the way it looks right now. But I think this is good. This should help turn our base out. Today in Virginia, they started early voting, and they were talking about lines around the corner, the excitement, and so on. And it looks like it's going to be a turnout election. We need to turn our base out. Our base cannot stay home on election day, frankly.
Yeah, but I think we talked about this before too with early voting. A lot of people who are voting early are probably also those that they've made up their mind. Here we have this news about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but those early voters or those vote by mail voters are probably already baked in the cake. They're the diehard that are saying we're going to vote for Biden and we're going to vote for Trump. But we're now looking at those that are wavering a little bit, and as Mark alluded to earlier, bring some of these Republicans home, and see where we go.
Can I point out that this show managed to beat the Washington Post alert?
Hey, what can I say? I'm
just waiting. I'm looking here.
This is our breakout moment. We're going national.
We managed to break.
I've always said, Mark, we have more viewers than MSLSD and CNN, and it looks like we got more viewers than people that read the Washington Post.
All right, let's quickly go through maybe one or two more things and then wrap it up here. I want to go back into Biden because of just the interesting week he's had. We have. I'm going to throw all these together and we can just comment them in one lump sum, I guess. Here, the slip ups with Harris talking about a Harris administration, Biden talking about a Harris-Biden administration. Biden down in Miami during this Hispanic Heritage Month activity, trying to appeal to the Latino vote, comes out and he plays the song Despacito, 2017, for 15 seconds, and then makes these comments. And if that is not outright pandering, among other things, I don't know what is.
Then he pulled out his hot sauce.
And then there was also mentioned
but doesn't Hillary also go around with hot sauce too?
The CNN town hall where it was very different than the ABC town hall with Trump. Much friendlier to Biden than the ABC one was to Trump. So there we've got a bunch of things thrown in there. Go for it, guys.
Let me just suggest to the Biden folks, if they're looking for Latino songs, may I suggest La Bamba? Very safe. You can't go wrong. Or Yaya, or anything from...
Okay. Sarcasm doesn't... Anyway. Let's move on from Dwight.
So I thought, actually, I didn't see the original pandering that that Biden did, I saw the meme that somebody else created that the president retweeted out of replacing the pandering song to an NWA song with Ice Cube talking about the police. And it was obviously a joke, but it was just hilarious because it was like, if you know the song, I mean, it's the same. Like you've seen the Straight Outta Bethesda. It's Straight Out. It's that, and he's like bopping along to it. It was hilarious, and then Twitter had to say, "Oh no, this is manipulated media." Yeah, of course, but they sort of fell into that trap, and so I felt like actually that pandering got played wider than it would have normally, like because they had to go trip over themselves to disprove it. No, he wasn't saying expletive the police. He was just pandering to Hispanic voters, like in an obvious thing. So everyone was sort of like, it made it more obvious that he was that he was just being ridiculous. So I just want to say I came to it from a different angle, or I fell into that news from a different angle. I think more hilarious, but it just sort of reinforced it that it was incredible pandering, and like I said, like then he pulled out his hot sauce from his purse.
That's a pretty good observation there, Marcus, too, because the thing is that I don't know how many people actually. I mean, there was some play about the Despacito thing with Biden and got around, but I think with the Trump meme, that a whole altered video and everything like that just highlighted more, and the liberals lost their minds. You said Twitter, they went crazy about it, which only magnified it.
Yes, they fell into the trap. It's like the president is brilliant, and I mean he knows media, and he just put it out there, and they fell for it. Oh my gosh, it was beautiful. Actually, it was just.
Jason, would you have ever advised a candidate to do something like that in an audience like that, though?
I don't think I would ever advise in my professional life for a candidate to carry around hot sauce. I think one thing I wanted to ask is
can I correct that? You would advise them to carry around McCormick's.
Old Bay.
In Maryland, Old Bay.
They can carry around. Well, maybe they could carry around the Old Bay hot sauce. Maybe that.
I carry it in my purse.
Yes. In full disclosure, I used to carry crushed red pepper when I was in high school because no point in eating pizza if you can't have crushed red peppers on it. I used to carry crushed red pepper around.
I mean, were you going to say something else, though, Jason?
Oh yeah. So one thing that I wanted to touch on about Biden is that he went on CNN and did all these softball questions for an hour or so, and we had Trump go on ABC, and he had to get interviewed by Bill Clinton's former press secretary. I'm wondering when I saw a great thing that somebody said, I'm wondering when Biden gets to go on Fox News and get interviewed by and do a town hall with Dana Perino and be in a hostile environment like that.
I don't think that idea.
I don't think we'll get that this election.
He won't go on with Chris Wallace, let alone.
Yeah, he won't. Well, Chris will get his chance on September 29th, kind of right in the debate when he does that thing. But Dana Perino. I would love to see Joe Biden go up against even Martha McCallum, who's been a very good interviewer, things like that. So
right.
Did you see when Biden goes off his literal script, he gets more in trouble. Just reading the different lines on his teleprompter. He says like, okay, next page, like he like is saying to the person controlling it, next page. And then in one interview, I believe
end quote.
He picked up quote. I sometimes say end quote, but in one interview he went off script and he talked about a picture with his sons, and he held up the picture frame, and in it the glass on the frame showed the teleprompter.
Right.
It showed up. And I just can't believe the amount of enabling going on.
Even the media. I even saw some reports where talking about Biden's town hall where they said, yeah, he did okay. Did he seem to stumble for words or thoughts at some point in time? Yes.
Yes.
So I'm like, yes. So please take this as a warning signal for those that are reading these media reports. It's like even the liberal media is admitting that Biden, he missed a few things there. He was trying to answer questions in a very friendly environment. He was still stumbling around. You can only imagine what's going to happen. I mean, Nancy Pelosi does not want him to debate, but we've got 11 days. It's going to happen, and it's going to be a total train wreck for Joe Biden.
I don't know, Jason, is there a place we would watch those debates around here? Like we get together with people and watch that debate? Is there a place
Is this a setup? Is that a softball question? What is that?
That's what we call, just before, that's what we call in the trade a Biden question. Go ahead, John. Go ahead, Jason.
You can, I'm reading my teleprompter that's head down to Glory Days in Edgewater, Maryland, and for just a cheap 45 for 45 ticket.
45, only, you're kidding me. $45, only $45, really?
Well, and the $45 includes your dinner and your drinks.
No way.
It'll be a good
dinner
time. And you get to go out and see people.
It's like those old comedy things from like the 1940s and 50s.
I don't believe it. Dinner and drinks for $45?
Exactly.
Wow. Mark, can you believe that?
How long did it take you to rehearse that, Dwight?
By the way, can we buy our tickets online, Jason?
Yes,
you can go to our Facebook page, Anne Arundel County Republican Party, and there's an event, and it'll take you right where you buy the tickets.
And any credit card will work, right, Jason?
Apple Pay too, right?
Correct.
You take Apple Pay, right? Apple Pay works, right?
Oh, that's funny. All right.
If you're old school and want to do checks, we'll take those too.
We're at the end of the show, so we ought to get final thoughts.
Sure.
Can we cover Marcus?
Oh,
you want us to come back?
Yeah, well, I'll just follow up from final thought before. It seems that the president's approach to stop rioting has worked in deputizing state and local public safety agencies such that they can actually hold some of these rioters and take them, and as well as local DAs and local judges, properly charging these rioters, because the siege of the White House, like days of protest,
50 days of protest,
that they were supposed to start. I believe the local Antifa or Resistance or whatever Twitter pages have said, yeah, we're going to just have a jazz fest, like a jazz for festival. Like they've sort of canceled it without saying we've canceled it, but they've sort of decided not to do it. So hopefully less violence coming up just because of this. So yeah, because they said they didn't want to put their people at risk, given that they're actually arresting people now. So.
All right, Jason.
I would like to touch on earlier in the show, I made the claim that we would win 8 out of 8 congressional seats in Maryland. So for the next few weeks, we're going to be working on that. I'm going to be out door knocking at our MDGOP Super Saturdays. And if anybody's watching this show and wants to hit some doors so I can back my claim up of winning all these seats, you can head to our Facebook page, Maryland Republican Party on Facebook, and go to those events and RSVP and come out and help.
Hey, just before we go on to Mark, so in this, I just want to, this is a question I have in general. I mean, on these kind of things, these door-to-door things, I mean, they're really happening. Are people answering the door in this environment? Are they getting more comfortable?
Folks went up in Baltimore City last weekend and the weekend before that, and they had people answer the doors. Maybe they'll talk to you through the screen door as opposed to opening it all the way, but people are answering doors. So.
That's great. All right, Mark.
Well, we at the Montgomery County Republican Club have gotten out a sample ballot that is available on our website, and will be. I don't know if it's up on our Facebook page yet, but
it is. It is on our Facebook page.
It will be soon. And among the things, now you probably think that, well, gee, I already know who I'm going to vote for president and Congress and what have you. But what you see are the ballot questions. And so there are a number of ballot questions that we've got information on. There are some you should vote for, there's some that you shouldn't. I welcome you to take a look at that and find out a little bit more about what the pros and cons are. But in particular, if there's one in particular, it is question D, which is the initiative to get to transform the county council so it's 9 individual districts. We currently have 9 members, 4 of them are at large, but that would be converted into 9 seats. And that is much preferable than the alternative approach, which includes expanding the council, because I guess the Democrats think we need more council members.
Well, it's just a jobs program in their minds. Also,
all right. Yeah. I'm going to let Dwight finish off here in a sec, okay? So my final thought just basically is, New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy getting the legislature to pass a millionaire's tax. So it goes up from like 8.97% to 10.75%, which is the top tax rate in New Jersey. He's expecting to raise $390 million from that, but he obviously hasn't paid much attention to what happened with Martin O'Malley and company when we did a millionaire's tax and people left the state. So he's probably going to be winding up sadly disappointed. And there were members of the state legislature who are worried exactly that will happen. So this is probably going to come back to bite them. Raising taxes does not work.
Can I make a suggestion of what's going to happen? There's going to be a plane that goes along the coast, goes up the Jersey shore, and it's going to have the phone number for a Florida realtors. Looking to move from New Jersey? Call. Anyway.
Well, yeah. That's a
no. I mean, the thing is that a lot of people. I mean, we know a lot of people who live in, say, New Jersey and Connecticut and things like that. They work on Wall Street. They work in the city. Then they commute out by train and whatnot. But the way the economy has been reshaped, with a lot of companies not saying that you don't necessarily have to come to work anymore. They've now figured out how you can work remotely. Yeah, I think we're gonna see a lot of people that look $1 million. I mean, look, if I'm still making big bucks, I can move further away because I'm not going to commute to the office hardly at all.
Right.
I'm going to get away from that. I'm going to go to a lower tax state.
Yeah, but you can't vote the way you vote in New Jersey when you go to a lower tax state. But this is yet another example of a jobs program by Democrats. They're going to employ a lot of movers and realtors, and it's just a jobs program.
A jobs program for Florida and Texas realtors.
What's your final thought, Mike?
Yeah, I got 2. One is more of a serious final thought, so let's do that one first. Marcus, you look like you had something to say?
I had an additional one, but you go first, because I think.
Okay.
Or maybe you'll do the same thing, but if not,
okay,
let me have one after you.
Sure. Okay. First for the serious one. This is a tough year for a lot of families in the year. We had last night at our Pizza and Politics that the Montgomery County Republican Club does. No association is at all with Dr. Politics and the Political Architect Show, but I was there. Mark was there, but the Marine from he's actually a retired Navy guy, was with U.S. Marine Corps Toys for Tots Drive, and he was talking how this year is going to be a very difficult year for a lot of needy families in the area, and if you can figure out, he sent me an article actually, which we'll be posting on our website later, for the county club, I should say. But he was talking about how it's a tough year, and it'd be nice if more people get involved, as in being, if you're a business or even if you're a neighborhood association who wants to collect toys for the needy, contact Paul Gunther, and we'll have his contact information up on the website for Montgomery County Republican Club. It'll be on our Facebook, the county club's Facebook page. And it's a good cause. I know the Montgomery County Republican Party, since 2012, we've been collecting toys for Tots. And this year with COVID, I don't know. Is the party going to be able to do a Christmas party? Is the club going to be able to do a Christmas party? We don't know. And it'd be a real shame to see if some of the neediest families in Maryland and in the area basically are denied, a present for their kids, because we're not able to do that. So I say, if you can help, and we might be collecting toys at our Trump Thursday, which is my second final thought. Montgomery County Republican Club, fabulous organization. Trump Thursday is October 1, and they've got a fabulous speaker, and it is none other than Congressman Andy Harris from Maryland 1. He is going to speak via Zoom. RSVP Jackie at mcgopclub.com if you want to come in person, and you can always watch it on the Montgomery County Republican Club's Facebook page and YouTube channel, and smash the like button. We're trying to get to 100 on the YouTube likes, so smash that like button on YouTube. And that is my final thoughts. I know it's a little not kind of out of the ordinary. And oh, by the way, Spiro Agnew's awesome.
All right. So Marcus, what do you want to say?
I just wanted to make sure we sort of ended it just to the show pointing out that Justice Ginsburg and Justice Scalia were very philosophically opposites, but were very good friends, and both brilliant jurists, and made their mark on the American judicial system. So Justice Ginsburg, rest in peace.
All right. And with that, it is a wrap. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight for the Dr. Politics Show. We will be back next week with yet another exciting show. So have a great week and great weekend.
See everyone next week. Goodbye.